do you ever imagine that before the Tinubu government came and the Tinubu kind of politics that he has played, how he has graduated from one political shape and form, being and he also came from the United States where you live presently, and he became very popular because of his support for the anti-government movement in the military junta. And he came into the country, and you could see how he led an opposition, as small as it was as a group, has gravitated to becoming a superpower in terms of playing in the Nigerian political space. Did you ever think that Tinubu was cut from a different fabric? Were you expecting anything different from the lot or from what has happened in the past?
To be frank, no, I did not expect anything different. I recall visiting Lagos in 2006 or 2005 from the United States on a holiday, and I had read a lot about how he was transforming Lagos. And so I looked forward to a transformed Lagos, to a radically different Lagos, to an infrastructurally rich Lagos. But when I got there, I saw that the Lagos I saw wasn't different from the Lagos I had known. And so I called my friend and I said, where's all this propaganda from? People say he was transforming Lagos, and that's all I read in the newspapers, but I didn't see any difference. And they say, well, maybe you are in a part of Lagos he hadn't touched yet. I said, can you take me to that part of Lagos he had touched? And it turned out that the part of Lagos that had changed were the parts where the elite lived. So frankly, right from the time he was governor, when this noise was made about how he was transforming Lagos, I frankly didn't see it, and I recognized it for what it was. It was propaganda. And I came up with a theory that almost every Lagos governor, who is always in the good graces of the national press, and they're almost always presented as doing exceptionally well. So he wasn't alone. It's typical of Lagos governors to be praised. And so I had no expectations, frankly, that Tinubu was going to be any different from what he is right now. His opposition politics was intended to pave the way for him to get into the center, like he's doing now. And people who are opposing him also want to get to the center. So it's all about having access to the national patrimony. That's all it's about. And his being in the United States, of course, had nothing to do with that. I have always said that the system under which you operate determines most of the time how you act. That's why Nigerians who live in the orderliness and systematic orderliness of the society here go back to Nigeria, and they're indistinguishable from the people they left. In fact, Americans who are born and raised here from birth until adulthood, when they find themselves in Nigeria, they find that they have to behave the way people in Nigeria are behaving. So the system under which you operate, the prevailing system, sometimes determines how you approach issues.
But I mean, if you look at it, the way and manner you describe those who have governed Lagos from the Tinubu time, and you look at it and you perhaps describe it as overhyped governance. That's what you. I mean, I don't know if I'm right in the words that I used to represent your.
Except for Otedola, I think that was the name, right? Except for Michael Otedola, he did not have a good relationship with the press. But almost every Lagos governor has been overhyped.
I mean, so you look at it. If you look at the numbers are saying that Lagos is above all other states. Budget numbers, performance numbers, the economy grew to the point that it's now competing with other countries on the region. You look at the indices of governance also, they are way higher than any of the state. They are usually ahead in terms of governance reforms. They are always being copied. Judicial reforms, governance reforms, environmental. I mean, Lagos environmental policies seems to be a copycat for the rest of the state. So in that sense, a lot of people will imagine that Lagos has always been a sample to other states. They lead the pack. So if they are overhyped, that means other states are doing badly. Is that what it is?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, historically, Lagos has always been ahead of every part of Nigeria. And because it has a lot of resources, it has the sea, it has an over concentration of uh, the headquarters of many corporations. It used to be the capital. It was governed separately from even southern Nigeria. It was the first part of Nigeria to be colonized. It was called Lagos Protectorate before it was merged with the rest of Nigeria in 1914, and has always been a cosmopolitan city, a city that attracted everyone from everywhere, even before Nigeria was formed. And so it has all these structural, historical, sociological advantages. So it didn't matter who governs, that by the fact of being Lagos, of being this historical city that was cosmopolitan, that was a magnet for talents from all over the world, it always would lead. In fact, even if you left it rudderless, it still would be what it is. And but I think the biggest reason why the governors of Lagos are often hyped is that it is the media headquarters of Nigeria. I would even say of West Africa. It's the cultural capital of Nigeria itself. So if you're a governor and you reach out to the media, and the tendency is that the personal warmth that you extend to the media formation, the media establishment, will translate into positive coverage. And given Lagos resources, given the historic advantages it's always had, it is underperforming. And these indices we've said, these are disembodied numbers. The real living, breathing Lagosians still struggle as much as Nigerians elsewhere struggle. There's still a lot of poverty, more poverty than is justified for the wealth that Lagos generates. So I would not say that the hype is justified. It's not. Given all the resources that Lagos has, just by being Lagos, it's not.
And you don't think that there is no exceptionality in the character of Bola Tinubu, because Bola Tinubu has been described, is being portrayed, and is seen as the epitome of a new Lagos, the man who gave Lagos a focus and a direction and makes it the state of envy and of enviable standard on the African continent, in Nigeria, and he's been described as the man who set the pace for other governors to follow. You don't think he deserves some credit because of vision that he's been said to have?
No, I mean, I would say that I'm not going to say he never did anything right or noteworthy or praiseworthy in Lagos. He probably did. I would say he did, but he did not set the tone for Lagos. Like I said earlier, Lagos had always historically been ahead of the rest of Nigeria. It was always the magnet for all kinds of talents from West Africa, and has always led in terms of infrastructure, in terms of culture, in terms of resources. He had always led. And remember, it was the federal capital for several years. So a lot of the template for the development of Lagos was laid during that time. So Tinubu was just one addition to a long list of people who governed Lagos. And I don't think there is anything he did that was particularly uh, history altering. He just was one of many governors of Lagos. And Lagos, as I said, was always, in fact, the name of, we know that historically, for instance, the Tinubu, a part of the Tinubu family that he's associated himself with, came from Borno. So that was Lagos. It attracted people. That was as they came there in the 1800s, a man uh, from what is now Borno. He was probably a Shuarab or a Kanuri man. We don't know for sure. But he came and got married to Madam Tinubu, and they didn't have any children. Madam Tinubu allowed him to marry someone else, to have children, and that's where and to bear her family name. So that happened in the 1800s. That is Lagos. Lagos was always a magnet for people from everywhere. And to attribute its success, its distinctiveness to just the 8 years of Tinubu in this Fourth Republic, I think it's very it's reductionist. Lagos was always ahead of the pack, right from the get-go.
Even if you brought Peter Obi or an Akpabio or those who became governor, Donadiuk, who became governors at the time, or even the former governor of Zamfara or Ojukalu, those in the class of 1999 as governors, they would have done as much as Bola Tinubu did. Is that what you're saying?
I would say so, yeah. Lagos has its own rhythm that is independent of anyone who is put at its helms. It had its own rhythm, it has its own history, it has its own mind, it has its own trajectory, and there's almost nothing anyone can do to change it. Of course, I admit that there are certain governors who must have done something nice, and he probably did something nice and strategic and visionary, but it pales in the grand scheme of the architecture of Lagos itself.
Hmm.
Lagos is no ordinary city. Everyone knows that. Anyone who has studied Lagos knows it's no ordinary city.